Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to my YouTube channel Master That English, where we understand, analyze and interpret the important texts and concepts that may be part of your English curriculum. Our topic for today takes us into the late 20th century, specifically the 1980s, a time of rapid urbanization, shifting social structures and changing human behavior. But what makes this text truly interesting is that we are not just studying literature, we are engaging with the idea of social psychology, understanding how individuals behave in groups, how responsibility gets diffused, and how silence often becomes a form of participation. This is the time when society was becoming more modern, more educated, yet more isolated. And it is exactly within this contradiction between progress and indifference that today's text is located. So today, we are going to explore Lights Out by Manjula Padmanabhan, a powerful play that forces us to question not just society, but ourselves. So are you ready? Here we go. Let us first begin with the historical significance of this play. Lights Out is based on the eyewitness account. This incident took place in Santa Cruz, Bombay in the year 1982. During the 1980s, due to the rise of middle class isolation, many incidents of harassment, assault, and rape in urban areas were being practiced in India. Despite this, people often chose not to interfere or help the victims. This is the beginning of spectator culture. Padmanabhan wanted to criticize this social apathy and moral cowardice. The play shows how educated middle class people, who appear civilized and responsible, often avoid taking action when they witness injustice. Instead of helping the victim, they discuss the situation and make excuses. Even in the play, the writer highlights the contemporary social concerns that were also highlighted in the newspapers, such as women's education increases but social attitude remains unchanged, showing that despite progress in education, society continues to ignore violence against women. Newspaper discourse of the time shows a gap between increasing women's education and the continued social indifference and violence they face, exactly what Padmanabhan critiques. And now in the play, when it starts, what was the purpose behind writing it? Of course, Padmanabhan wanted to raise awareness about violence against women. She also wanted to criticize the indifference of society towards such crimes. She also wanted to encourage people to take responsibility and act against injustice. Through the character Leela, Padmanabhan shows that compassion and moral courage are necessary if society wants to prevent violence and injustice. Because everything we see around us is a mirror image of what could exactly happen with anybody. So, being conscious and sensitive to the wrong that is being around is very important. It also highlights that the lower strata of the society is voiceless. So, all the privilege has actually been given to the middle class, who are living a life of privilege in this century. And they have a safe bubble which gives them the entitlement of a republic, just as the Greeks had once attained when they were called intellectuals. They could speak, they could debate, and it seems that the middle class is also taking the similar mindset of being the democratic republicans who can sit, converse, but do not have the requirement to engage in the wrong that is being done. And this indifference can be noticed in the very onset of the play, where we notice that the characters who belong to the middle class strata have a say in what they believe in, whether it is something that they want to get rid of, or something that they want to ignore, or something that they want to observe just for entertainment, or something that they want to have a very clear expression about, because according to them, there are few who would like to definitely talk about and sensitize the society around. But what is uniquely interesting in the starting is that the maid who works for this family has no voice at all throughout the play. She only acts and performs the tasks that are given to her as a maid would often do, and she is just an eyewitness to everything, where her voice has no value, just as the condition of the wrong that is being done outside their flat through the window gaze is visible to all of them, just as the victims are not having the freedom to speak and raise their concern or sensitize the people who are viewing this heinous crime being done. There is nothing that they can do about it. And in this way, I feel that the writer definitely does belong to the group of several writers who were also writing on contemporary issues, like Mahesh Dattani, Girish Karnad. She is also writing about socially relevant themes that are very serious for the time in which she was writing. In fact, many of her works focus on women's experiences, especially how society controls or exploits them. One of her plays that is very well known is titled Harvest, which had won the Onassis International Cultural Competition Award in Greece. And this work deals with the commodification of the human body, especially in the globalized world. While some works of her are very realistic, as we study in this play Lights Out, others use science fiction and dystopian elements to explore the modern issue in a deeper way. In many ways, I feel her stories do focus on inner struggle, fear, selfishness, ethical dilemmas, rather than just external action. She often uses irony and satire to criticize the middle class attitudes, hypocrisy, and passivity. She does not avoid taboo topics, challenging norms, and forces readers to question accepted values. And this is what this play would also highlight. This play is realistic, has a very sharp critique to the culture and tradition that the new middle class was starting to adopt. And as a result of this, it does have an ironic tone in the mode in which it is expressed. And there are beautiful techniques that the writer has used throughout the play. Some of the techniques that I really liked in the play include the off-stage action, where the violent incident is heard through the victim's screams. This technique makes the audience imagine the violence and creates strong emotional tension. It is suggestive. It is artistic, because she does not wish the listener to feel perturbed by what exactly goes on stage. She wants the viewer or the reader to visualize this grotesque act that is being performed. To a certain level, I feel even the setting has a realistic approach, because it is a reflection of the society that she is talking about, which makes it relatable even today, as the middle class that we talk about are also changing their value sets with the changing time. Let us have a glimpse into the way in which the play starts. I like how the character who speaks in the very starting is actually a male, who is only interested in the routine conditions with which life should go on. He should get his privileges for which he has worked hard. And this character is none other than Bhaskar, who is Leela's husband. He is the bread owner of the house, so he is the boss. And that is where our play is set. That is the bubble where we are going to see the entire interesting discussions that are going to happen between the characters. So in the starting, we have Freda, that is the servant, who is always silent, Bhaskar, who is the man of the house, and Leela, who is the wife, who is also very troubled in the starting of the play. Let us look at the starting of the play and understand their tones. Frida, Frida, where's my tea? Oh, Bhaskar, hi. Tell me, did you do it? No, you didn't? What? Again? Again what? How could you forget? Huh? I wish if I could. Could what? Forget. In this scene, Leela's husband Bhaskar represents the typical urban middle class mindset that prefers safety and comfort over moral responsibility. He avoids getting involved in the situation and tries to calm Leela all throughout the first half of the play because he believes that interfering might cause trouble. His character shows fear, selfishness, and moral weakness. Through Bhaskar, the playwright criticizes the hypocrisy of people who discuss morality but fail to act when faced with real issues. He suggests his wife should meditate, focus a little in her breathing, try to understand that whatever happens outside is not their concern. And this indifference does not just end there. You can see that even when a guest is going to arrive, which is Mohan, Bhaskar's close friend, he is thinking of ways in which he can camouflage the entire situation by not making it look like a big cause of concern.
We'll just keep the windows shut, draw the curtains, put some music. In fact, why not to put music on right away?
Ignorance, ignorance. If we look at the entire scene 1, we notice that the discourse is only between Bhaskar and Leela, where Leela is disturbed, and Bhaskar is just looking for ways in which things can be made easier in the house, which belongs to him. The interesting part actually starts in scene 2, when Bhaskar's friend Mohan arrives, and now we get to see the actual discourse with which the middle class is thinking of various ways of assuming that whatever is happening outside as an heinous crime is not exactly their cause of concern. They mock the entire situation from the starting. They first have conversations at the phonetic level of what the sound is, how pitched it is, how melodious does it sound, does it really sound as a crime at all? They also discuss about the ways in which the individuals partaking the act and the victims who are part of this heinous crime are having a certain type of dress code with which they are presenting themselves. Is it a play of just a playful act, which is usually done by the community that does the trade of flesh? Or is it just something that they need to view as a site of voyeurism? What exactly is this? Is it a form of entertainment? Has the window become a television for them that they can just watch and enjoy the entire overview of whatever is happening? It is interesting to see how, from the phonetic level, they come to the linguistic discourse of what exactly these individuals can be described as. And it moves on to the social discourse with which, because they know that they belong to the middle class, they even describe the situation as something to do with a community that they cannot even identify with. They consider it to be probably a demonic activity at one point of time, where a sort of exorcism is being performed, where the women act as the demonic creatures. They even go to the extent of calling it a religious practice. Religious practice? Seriously? But that's what is the entire scene 2 all about. They just don't want to participate. The family is looking for reasons of masking the entire event, and reasons for showing their helplessness, where the other inhabitants, who are also the passive viewers of watching this crime happening every day, are seemingly threatened by these absconding, heinous violators by the signal that is given to them, in which they are asked to turn off their lights while the act is happening. And the individuals who even tried to ignore this instruction were often given ultimatums by several disturbing acts that were done to make their life miserable. So, the family considers it best that the passive involvement is the best way to deal with the situation. And then, as the event proceeds, we also come across another character. Her name is Naina. Naina in the play represents the voice of consciousness. She doesn't fear in describing the act for what it is. She is the one who describes it for what exactly the act represents. And women are not decent enough to be raped? That's the word. She describes this heinous crime for what it stands. What is the definition of this act that is being done? It's a rape, an act where there is no consensual decision made from both the parties, which is why Naina is challenging the idea of decency that society uses to judge women. She is the one who exposes the hypocrisy of the middle class morality, where people label women as decent and indecent, yet fail to protect them from violence. The line suggests that rape is not about women's character, but about society's indifference and violence. It is a sharp critique of victim blaming, where society indirectly justifies crimes based on how women behave or dress. And there are several movies to represent this, even in Indian cinema or even in the West. For example, the famous movie which is on the similar notion of consensual discussion about having an act of intimacy would be the movie Pink, where Amitabh Bachchan acts as the person who is the defender who fights for the voice of women, and the rest of the society has their notions set just as the men in this play. And as we go ahead, Naina's husband also turns out to be a new, fresh representation of what exactly this situation is calling for. He intensifies the entire act as a mode of planning and execution. There is almost a radical expression, and when Naina's husband, Surinder, comes to the scene, who has seemingly, initially, very shocked to see the sight, and only decides that the only act of retribution here would be to act violently.
You see, if we call the police, they will come 2 weeks later. There'll be an inquiry. People will be questioned. A little noise will be made, and then we will all go to sleep again. If we go ourselves, bas, the matter is over at once.
But is the matter over at once in the play? Not truly. They plan different modes of execution. We'll take knives, we'll take acid, we'll take every other prop that comes to our mind which will act as a tool of self-defense first, an act of moral, ethical code of conduct later. Surinder is only interested in showing the man he is in terms of creating a rage, so that there is a mode of radical notions are put in the forefront. You can notice that his presence is only triggering a tension in the entire play in the second half. He is not really wanting to do anything. He is only interested in thinking of ways in which he can protect himself rather than being involved. He wants to take pictures of the act so that he can reveal the identity of the individuals who are committing this crime rather than really thinking of a practical approach, which is just to make a phone call, just to take that one step, which can easily bring this entire wrong event at a conclusion. So, in the story, the victim never appears on stage. The victim is the one of the most powerful presence in the play, though. She cries and screams are heard throughout the play. She represents the countless women who suffer violence in society while others remain silent. Her invisibility also symbolizes how victims are often ignored or forgotten. She screams throughout the play, "Help! Help!" But this is the note with which the entire play goes on. In fact, what I like in the end is basically how everything seems to be like a discourse which has not culminated into a solution at all. This is what Bhaskar says when they see that the entire thing has come to an end. "But Bhaskar, how good is your camera?" "Perfect. Zoom, shoom, focus, focus." "And a flash? We'll need one for this light." "Yes, that too, Leela." "Isn't it's in the safe, in my cupboard." "Good, then it's decided." "How are we going to get there?" "We'll take my car." "We need not bother anymore." "What? Why?" "It's You are too late. The screaming stopped. There's no one left out there." "What are you saying?" "They've all gone." "Oh, then it must be over for tonight." "Oh, then it must be over for tonight." Leela's reaction shows concern in contrast to her friend Naina, who is sarcastic and challenging Bhaskar, Mohan, and Surinder reflect fear and selfishness. The watchman is silent throughout the play. The lawkeeper police is always absent. This reflects the indifference while the unseen victim is ignored, suffering of many women. Attitude of men, society is evident through these lines. There are more layers in this play that should be understood in the notion of nuclear family concept that took over this tradition in the 1980s. As nuclear families were more likely to exhibit the bystander effect, a psychological phenomenon where people are less likely to help someone in need when others are present. This happens mainly because of diffusion of responsibility. Responsibility gets spread across everyone present, so individuals feel less personally responsible. In the play, the characters remind me of the concept proposed by the philosopher Foucault, whose concept of power is applicable here. They are powerful and have classical cognitive dissonance as they justify why they are not participating by drawing attention to their clothes, which are different every day. They even assume the cries may be part of a religious ceremony, eventually justifying it to a demonic practice of exorcism. At the psychological level, we can also understand the concept Freud had laid down about such tribe-like mentality in his work Totem and Taboo. Every community has certain set of people which form a tribe. In a tribe, during the ancestral time when Freud came up with this concept, he noticed that the tribe always had a leader as the father. And this father became the totem, where he was a reminder to the boys who had killed their father mainly because he was the one who was the owner of all the women in the tribe. In order to break the decorum, the boys decided to kill him. And as a reminder, they established the totem. That was a reminder to their guilt that they had committed a crime which should never be forgotten. In the present circumstances, the nuclear families have only one representation as the totem: the man of the house, who is the head of the dynamics in the house, and he does not feel threatened. So he feels safe in his bubble, his tribe, the nuclear family. However, the writer wants to highlight that his tribe also includes the external world, and sooner or later, it may also get affected. Community building will safeguard heritage, values, and instill moral conscience, as this will make the external world just as secure as the internal world. Towards the end of the play, the writer tests the audience and states that the characters may be fictitious, but the incident is real. Under the circumstance, she questions whether the reader is also going to become a bystander, like the characters in the play, or do something about it. Is your family confined to your house or the society? As the larger number of your tribe, greater is the strength to fight against injustice. So in the end, the play highlights the issue of violence against women, criticizes society's passive response to it. The victim in the play represents many women who suffer harassment and assault but do not receive justice. The character Leela plays an important role in expressing feminist concern. She strongly reacts to the assault and demands action. Her voice represents empathy, moral courage, and demand for justice. The play also exposes the patriarchal mindset of the society. The male characters prefer to remain safe rather than protect the victim. Their behavior reflects how society often ignores women's suffering. Through this powerful message, the writer encourages the audience to question their own responsibility towards social injustice and gender violence. And that's not all. We see certain strains of feminist concerns on this sensitive issue in many plays, besides this writer. For instance, in Mahesh Dattani's Final Solution, who also belongs to her time of writing, is also highlighting the similar strains where society prefers safety over justice. Both the plays highlight middle class hypocrisy and fear. Even in the play by another playwright, Vijay Tendulkar, Silence, the Court is in Session, that is also a play where women becomes a victim of public humiliation. Society enjoys and normalizes her suffering, similar to the spectators in Lights Out, exposing violence against women, societal cruelty when people become silent spectators and participants in justice. We also have plays written in different countries like Africa. For instance, the play by Wole Soyinka, Dance of the Forest, is a play that also shows society ignorance towards the truth and responsibility. Both the plays are criticized for their collective guilt and focus on society's moral failure, which is why in the entire play, the half-child is a symbolic representation of the unfulfilled and heinous crimes that the society has done in the past. And how can we forget the dystopian tales that were famously popularized on the feminist notion by the writer Margaret Atwood, who in her famous work, The Handmaid's Tale, shows sympathetic oppression, just like implied violence in Lights Out. Both highlight control over women's body. So, dear listeners, this play is a play that requires attention so that history doesn't repeat itself. It's a play that needs to be ingrained in every individual living in a cosmos of culture and tradition, that real virtue lies in acknowledging and participating as a mode of action, rather than glorifying what exactly can be done or fabricating narratives that are a mode of self defense. Let's make a change and see that the world becomes a better place when we involve ourselves on the participation level at a greater level. With that, we come to the end of the analysis of this play. I hope you all enjoyed. If you liked the lecture, do give it a thumbs up and share it with those who would like to know about this play from a different perspective. Stay tuned, we are there with more stories coming on the way. Until we meet next time, this is me, Karishma. Take care.